You are 44. Brad pulls into the parking lot in the new company Yukon, the one with the paint job that costs extra, and stands next to it in the lot the way he stood next to every one of these for 15 years, like a man showing off something he actually paid for. Two guys from the warehouse walk over to look at it. Brad tells them the number, the trim level, the financing the company absorbed so he never has to think about it. You watch from your own car, a 9-year-old sedan you own outright, and you already know something Brad doesn't. Your portfolio crossed the value of that Yukon 11 months ago. You've never once mentioned it. You sit in your car for a moment longer than you need to, watching the small crowd around Brad's truck the way you've watched a dozen versions of this exact scene over the years, always a slightly different model, always the same posture, a man standing next to something on loan like it's proof of something permanent. You grab your bag from the passenger seat and head inside without saying anything. Nobody expects you to. Nobody ever has. Rewind. You are 26. You take the sales job because the base is decent and the car program is the real selling point, a new company vehicle every 3 years, fully financed, fully insured, upgrade automatically when the lease turns over. Everyone in orientation looks a little thrilled about it. HR explains the options, a company-selected vehicle at no cost to you, or a monthly allowance instead if you'd rather drive your own car and bank the difference. Almost nobody takes the allowance. You do the math quietly in the parking lot afterward and check the box for cash instead. The HR rep running orientation barely pauses on the allowance option, moving through the slide in under a minute, clearly used to nobody choosing it. You ask her afterward, privately, how many people actually take the cash instead of the car. And she thinks about it for a second and says maybe one a year, if that. You don't tell her why you're asking. You're not entirely sure yourself yet, just a vague instinct that a car depreciating in someone else's name isn't actually the same thing as a benefit. You drive your own car that first year, a used sedan with 80,000 miles, while half the sales floor rotates into shiny new company trucks and SUVs every few years. Brad, 2 cubicles over, takes the company vehicle the day he's eligible, a truck he shows off in the lot before he's even driven it home. He asks you, genuinely confused, why you turned down a free car. You tell him you're saving for something. He laughs, not unkindly, says something about how a car is a car, might as well let the company pay for the nice one. You are 29. Your first upgrade cycle would have hit this year if you'd taken a company vehicle. Brad's on his second truck already, newer, bigger, a running joke on the sales floor about how he treats the parking lot like a dealership showroom. Your allowance money has been landing in a brokerage account every month for 3 years now, quietly, automatically, the exact kind of thing nobody on the sales floor would ever ask to see a screenshot of. You check the balance on your lunch break. It's small still, 5 figures, unglamorous, the number Brad would laugh at if he ever saw it next to his truck payment he doesn't actually have. A coworker asks you at a happy hour that year, half joking, whether you're ever going to join the rest of us and take the company truck, and you say maybe eventually, a non-committal answer that ends the conversation without inviting follow-up questions. You've learned, by 29, that explaining index funds to someone 3 drinks into discussing truck trim packages just makes you the guy who overthinks things, and being that guy costs you nothing you actually need. You are 32. The company rolls out a new vehicle tier that year. A luxury option for top performers, and Brad hits his numbers and gets offered the upgrade immediately. He corners you at the coffee machine to show you photos on his phone before he's even picked it up. You say it looks nice. You mean it. You don't mention that your account, quietly funded by 7 years of declined car upgrades, just crossed 6 figures the week before. Nobody asks. You've stopped expecting anyone to. You get promoted that same quarter, a modest bump in base salary, and HR sends the same benefits reminder every promoted employee gets, an option to revisit your vehicle program election given the new tier. You read the email twice, delete it, and increase your monthly brokerage contribution instead by the exact amount of the raise, a habit that's become so automatic by now it barely registers as a decision anymore. You are 35. The market has a bad spring, the kind that makes financial news anchors use words like correction and volatility, and your statement that quarter is smaller than the one before it. Brad, at a team meeting, jokes about how glad he is he doesn't have money in the market, how cash and a good truck lease are all the security a man needs. You don't correct him. You increase your monthly contribution instead, the following week, because everything's on sale and a discount most people are too scared to take feels like the closest thing to an actual advantage you've ever been handed. Your wife asks you that spring, watching you review the statement at the kitchen table, whether you're worried, and you tell her honestly that you're not, that the number going down on paper doesn't change how many shares you actually own, only what someone would pay for them today, and today isn't the day you're selling. She doesn't fully follow the math. She trusts the calm in your voice instead, the same calm you've been quietly building for 9 years now, one declined truck at a time. You are 38. Brad's on his 4th vehicle now. A different model each cycle, always the newest trim, always a small crowd in the lot the first week he drives it in. You've never once had a crowd around your car. Your account crosses a number that quarter that would buy 3 of Brad's trucks outright, in cash, without touching a single other dollar you own. You don't do anything different that week. You go home, eat dinner, watch the news, same as always. The number doesn't ask to be celebrated. It just sits there, growing, the way it's grown for 12 years without a single person outside your own household ever glancing at it. You run into the HR rep from your original orientation that year, retiring after nearly 3 decades, at a small office gathering. She doesn't remember you specifically, but she remembers the question, someone asking years ago how many people actually took the cash allowance instead of the car. You tell her it was you. She laughs, genuinely delighted, and asks how it worked out. You tell her it worked out fine, which is the truest understatement you'll say all year. You are 41. HR sends an email that spring reminding employees they can switch from the company vehicle program to the cash allowance at any time, a routine reminder almost nobody reads past the subject line. You forward it to nobody. You've long since stopped needing anyone else to understand the math you did 15 years ago in a parking lot after orientation. Brad, that same month, gets pulled into a meeting about downsizing his territory, a reorganization that has nothing to do with performance and everything to do with cost-cutting at the regional level, and for the first time in a decade and a half, you watch him look genuinely rattled standing next to a truck the company could reclaim with 30 days' notice if his role got cut entirely. You overhear him afterward, on the phone in the break room, explaining to someone at home that everything's fine, that this kind of restructuring happens. That his position is safe for now. You don't need to eavesdrop to know the specific texture of that particular fear, the one where your entire financial footing depends on a company's continued goodwill rather than anything you actually control yourself. You've spent 15 years quietly building the opposite of that feeling, one declined upgrade at a time, and it's never once occurred to you until this exact moment how rare that actually is. You are 43. Your daughter starts asking questions about money the way teenagers eventually do, mostly by accident, glancing at a laptop screen left open on the kitchen table. She asks why you drive such an old car when you clearly could afford something nicer. You tell her the truth, the whole 15 years of it, the allowance instead of the upgrade, the account nobody at your job has ever seen a number from. She's quiet for a while, doing math of her own, and then asks if Brad, whose kid she goes to school with, has anything like what you have. You tell her you don't know. You mean it. You've never once needed to know. She asks a follow-up question that sticks with you longer than you expect it to, whether it was ever hard, watching Brad get a new truck every few years while you kept the same old sedan. You tell her the truth about that too, that it was, especially in the beginning, that there were plenty of Fridays in your 20s where a free truck sounded like the easiest yes in the world. She nods slowly, the way she does when she's actually filing something away instead of just hearing it, and you wonder, watching her, whether this is the version of the lesson that actually lands, the one that comes from a kid instead of an HR pamphlet. You are 44. Present day. Brad standing in the lot next to the new Yukon, the paint job that costs extra, the crowd of two warehouse guys nodding along to a monologue about financing you know, for a fact, the company absorbs entirely. Because you sat in on the very same orientation 15 years ago where he checked a different box than you did. You watch from your own car for a moment before heading inside. You do the math without needing a calculator, the way you've done it 100 times over the years. The Yukon sticker price is a number you could write a personal check for tomorrow and barely feel it. Your account crossed that number 11 months ago. You've never once mentioned it. You're not going to start today either. Brad catches you watching and waves you over, genuinely proud, wanting you to admire the truck the way everyone else in the lot is admiring it. You walk over. You tell him it looks great. You mean it, the same uncomplicated way you've meant it every single time for 15 years. He asks, half joking, when you're finally going to take the company car program yourself, tired of watching you drive, that old thing, into the lot every morning. You tell him you're happy with what you've got. He laughs, shakes his head, says you're one of a kind, and turns back to show the Yukon's interior to the warehouse guys. That afternoon, a new hire starts on the sales floor, 24 years old, sitting through the same orientation you sat through 18 years ago, HR explaining the same two boxes, the company vehicle or the cash allowance, almost nobody in the room considering the second option seriously. You watch her from across the office for a moment, not saying anything, not offering advice she didn't ask for. You remember exactly what it felt like to check that box alone, uncertain, with no proof yet that it would ever amount to anything more than a slightly embarrassing number in a savings account nobody wanted to see. You drive home that evening in the same 9-year-old sedan, paid off years ago, reliable in the unremarkable way only a car that's never once been anyone's talking point can be. You pull into your driveway and sit there for a minute before going inside. The way you've started doing more often lately, not because anything's wrong, just because the quiet has become a place you actually enjoy sitting in rather than a gap you need to fill with something louder. Your daughter's light is on upstairs. Your account, somewhere in a server you'll never see, added a little more to itself again today, the way it does every single day now, whether you're watching or not. Somewhere tonight, a 24-year-old is filling out a benefits form at a kitchen table, staring at two boxes, a shiny company vehicle or a cash allowance that sounds, on paper, considerably less exciting. She doesn't know yet which box Brad checked 18 years ago, or which one you did, or that the difference between those two checkmarks was never really about cars at all. It was about which kind of pride a person is willing to trade away quietly, for years, with absolutely nobody clapping, so that one ordinary Tuesday, decades from now, the math finally, silently, settles itself in their favor. She'll check a box tonight, one or the other, and either way, nothing dramatic will happen tomorrow. No one will notice which one she picked. That's the part nobody warns you about walking into a decision like this at 24, how completely invisible the entire process is going to be, for years, maybe for over a decade, right up until the exact ordinary afternoon someone in a parking lot is showing off a truck they don't actually own, and you realize, quietly, that you already do.